Welcome to All About the Bay. I'm your host, Paula Joy. Every week I interview exciting people on the show. I'm getting to discover more and more about the Bay Area, the beautiful Bay Area. Not only what you see outside, but also exciting people with exciting ideas. And today on the show with me is Karen Barbarick. By the way, All About the Bay is brought to you by the Money Market, Inc., your Amazon for mortgage solutions. So if you know somebody who is thinking of buying or selling or refinancing, the place to go is themoneymarketinc.com. Again, on the show with me today is Karen Barbarick. She helps you not only to prevent you from getting sick, but helps you to think right and helps you to live a healthy lifestyle. Actually, forget about a healthy lifestyle. She's going to help you live a lifestyle that you've been yearning for, that all of us should have, honestly. So I'm excited to interview her today. Stay tuned, don't go away. This is Paula Joy. Okay, today we are out in the field, not in Newark, but in Oakland. Beautiful place. And with me is this beautiful woman here. So, Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul.
I'm so excited to talk about what you do. I can talk about you, right? About you. Let's start with family first. So, you said you have what? 2 kids?
I have 2 adult sons.
Uh-huh.
One is in Italy right now, in Padua, Italy, studying global forestry.
Okay.
He is a real healer of the earth and wants to save the trees. And I have another son who's 26. He lives here in the Bay Area, and he is a public speaking coach.
Right.
So he loves to help people have constructive communication, healthy communication.
What do you do for recreation? What do you do like when you want to have fun? What do you do?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so fun is a priority.
Okay.
Recreation is a priority.
Yes.
I love all outdoor sports. I love actually taking care of myself. That's self-care. That's fun. I've traveled all around the world. I love to travel, and I have a fondness of Astrology. And that is the study of the stars in different places where there's ancient megalithic structures.
And what does that mean? Ancient megalithic structures?
Megalithic structures, yeah, so prehistoric
like
structures,
Egypt.
like in Egypt,
and Rome.
In Africa, well, Egypt is Africa, all over Africa, Machu Picchu, in Peru.
Where's that at? Okay.
Yeah, in Mexico. We even have some places here in the far west of the world, in the West Coast.
Okay.
So I love to study ancient technologies. And my background is in Ayurvedic medicine. So I've been to India. I studied at the University of Pune in India, Ayurvedic medicine, and traveled all around there.
So I'm curious about ancient technologies. I mean, what is that? Like, okay, dating back BC, what?
Ancient technology is, in regards to health, is lifestyle medicine. And so basically the ancients had a way of understanding everybody has a unique body constitution. Every individual, just like we have our own thumbprint, we have our own personal star chart, we have this unique body there's only one of. And so the ancient medicines of all around the Orient practice this, that everybody is a unique constitution. So we have to do medicine, we have to take care of it according to its uniqueness, not putting everybody, in the same formula for healthcare, giving everybody the same pill, basically, or the same diet.
You said you've traveled around the world.
I have.
Like ancient cultures.
Yes.
Right? Like in Africa and South America and India. So
Yep.
Okay, so where in South America have you been?
Well, I just recently actually got back from Mexico. South America isn't the place I've traveled the most. I've mainly gone to places in Europe, and I've traveled to blue zones. So what is a blue zone? A blue zone is
like here, it's kind of blue.
Yeah, it's places where there's a high majority of centenarians, people that live to 100 and over.
Oh, wow.
And
they still walk.
They're living productive lives.
They're not in wheelchairs and stuff like that.
Some of them are. But in these blue zones, they're fairly healthy and getting around.
Where? Which country is that?
So one place in Italy, it's an island called Sardinia. And in Sardinia, there's these ancient megalithic structures, for one thing, which is the reason why I went there. And the waters are so beautiful and the sailing is great. But also to understand what causes these blue zones. Why do people live to be so old? Like, what helps them to live fully? Because in our culture, we see that they call it the disease of aging. You know, in the last 10 years of a person's life, they might have a rapid decline, like they lose their mind. They, have these different health challenges that are really debilitating. Right. In these blue zones, they live until they die. So what we're experiencing here is this slow decline into death. But in these blue zones, they live and then they die. Wow. So they live fully. I think it was a 120-year-old woman who said she was looking for her next husband. Wow.
Really? She needs some romance at the age of 120. Where in some places they can't even get out of bed, huh?
Yeah, so stuff like that is really interesting to me. I'm a holistic, so my goal in life is to help people prevent diseases. So I promote health rather than fighting disease.
So that's your profession, right? You promote health rather than fighting disease. Let's talk about that. Okay, how do you do that? How do you promote health? I mean, how?
Well, one thing is I help people to get connected to themselves physically, through the things that they're eating, through their lifestyle, basically, if they're getting out, getting movement, interacting with people. And so also mentally, because we can't really figure out what comes first. Is it the mind that sends the body into imbalance, or is it the body that sends the mind into imbalance, right? So they both have to be worked on together. And then also spiritually, so it's physical, it's mental, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. And I help people get connected to that, which connects them to wanting to live a more inspired life, full of vitality.
So I know we're body, soul, and spirit, right? So what you feed the body, what you feed the soul, and what you feed the spirit is very important to your health.
Yes.
I mean, let's elaborate on that. Let's start with the body, because the body is what people see, right? And you can see that person also look healthy. You walk the streets of San Francisco, Oakland, some parts, and then San Jose, you can see some people haven't taken care. So it's very evident. But also, you don't need to go that far. You can go in people's homes, right? And they live in posh areas and stuff like that, but still not healthy. So let's talk about how to keep your body in good shape. Talk about it.
So basically, Ayurvedic medicine is part of the life sciences. And what is the life science? Sciences are learning about natural law. So for example, if you have a plant, a house plant, right? If you have that house plant, you can't just leave it there, unless it's a cactus maybe, and expect that it's going to grow and be a beautiful house plant. You have to give it water. Some people even say you have to talk to it. You have to give it the right amount of sunlight, and sometimes you give it some nutrients, right? And then it grows big and beautiful. And that's natural, like the natural order of things. People are the same way, right? So when you think of animals, you know, they have, like, San Francisco is loaded with people who love their animals so much. They're not having kids, but they're having like a dog, and you see them walking their dog and it's all dressed up and everything. And they're buying these gourmet foods for their pets. You know this, right? You've seen it. And their pet looks so healthy and so proud, right? And then you see maybe these other dogs or cats that are eating out of trash barrels, or they're not healthy, or they're abused, right? And they don't look healthy, and they're scared. And human beings are the same way. So if you only eat food that's industrialized food with preservatives in it, there's no life force, right? It's not alive. It's dead, basically, canned, packaged, or whatever. Then you can't expect what's going to come out of it is going to be full of vitality.
So what you're saying is some of the foods that we eat damage our vitality.
Correct.
So, okay, we live in the industrialized Bay Area, okay, and there are no longer orchards and stuff like that. So, what do you do then? I mean, you don't go to Safeway, or what?
Well, I just want to say this: the Bay Area is one of the places in the world that has the cleanest and healthiest food in the whole entire world.
Okay, cool. So, congratulations, Bay Area. You listen to that, so therefore,
you know, Marin County, Mill Valley, all that area. We have local farmers markets. We have people that their hobbies are, you know, growing luscious and wonderful vegetables and tomatoes. My neighbor came over yesterday with cauliflower because they're growing cauliflower. So here in the Bay Area, you do have a lot of people that focus on stuff like that. And, you know, the Bay Area is a confusing place. It's really polarized because in the same sense, you see people that really don't have a chance. They're very poor. They're eating cheap food, that there's no life in it and no consciousness going into it. So you do have that. I just wanted to make it clear that there is a lot of healthy food.
So are you telling people not to eat anything that's processed, or what?
It's best to stick to okay, this is what I tell people. If it's dead food, which is anything out of a box, anything that has all these chemicals put in there, anything that's like loaded with things that you can't even pronounce if you look at the ingredients, that's not going to produce a beautiful body, mind, and spirit. If you eat healthy food, for example, let's say you eat a banana, okay? What is your body takes it in. It's full of life, right? It's alive, okay? So if you eat, if you go out into your backyard and you pick some fresh herbs and you make some fresh tea, it's alive, it's healthy. But if you're eating something with no life force, it's not going to produce something beautiful. And the type of work that I do is basically, how can we experience our life as an aesthetic experience? As an art form. Like my body, your body is an art form. And it must be treated as though it's a beautiful sculpt.
Okay, let's talk about this. I mean, I still need to dwell on the body before I go to the soul and the spirit. And I know the spirit is very important. But okay, so I'm still going back to, I'm looking at, you talking, I'm picturing Safeway, right? All that kind of stuff. You know, you got these things that are processed, they're canned, and they're put in bags and stuff like that, preservatives and stuff. And so nowadays, I mean, this thing about no GMO, now all that stuff used to be very popular and all that kind of stuff. But you still see canned food, still see all these things. Are you saying stay away from canned foods?
Yes.
Totally?
To the best of your ability. Basically I believe in a whole food plant-based diet. I do believe that animal protein for some constitutions, like I eat animal protein occasionally, is a good thing. Like it's a good source. But what's happened is people think that they need like high levels of meat in their life, and it's clogging up. From the mouth to the anus, you've got this big tube, right? And everything's got to go in there. And one of the first thing that's made out of your food is blood, okay? And so if you're eating food that's not rich in vitamins and minerals and life force, then your bloodstream Your blood goes to every periphery of your body, every organ of your body. It's not going to be healthy. So it's not going to be feeding the rest of the body healthy. Mixed with, many people are smoking. Many people are drinking alcohol. They're drinking coffee. Listen, I'm Italian. I love wine. I'm not saying don't have wine.
Okay, I was going to ask you that.
There's some good things, but it's like consumption. People are over consuming things,
so
and for the wrong reasons.
Then.
Yes.
Okay, so you talk about moderation. Therefore, how about moderation of canned food and all?
Yeah, like sometimes I'll open up a can of beans.
Okay.
If I'm making a dish and I don't have time to soak my beans and make my beans.
So long as you
overnight,
don't make that your mainstay diet, and you see that there's too much obesity.
Yeah.
And people who are obese are not healthy. Certainly not, right?
Well, let's talk about some other reasons why people are becoming obese. There's many hormonal imbalances. There's too many stress hormones. I've seen many people eat like a bird, not eat very much at all, yet they're overweight. Why is that? There's just so much stress that the body's holding on to everything. So every unique person is different, and some body types are designed to have more weight. They're more earth constitution, they're more watery constitution, and that's okay. And then there's some people that are too thin, so they need a little bit more of the higher protein and the fats and more food like that. So I do believe in the middle way, but that's kind of a relative statement. Like, I might be considered on the extreme end of health, whereas, there's that other extreme. And how do you find the middle way there? So the bar keeps moving. What I know in the work that I do is lifestyle and your environment has a big impact on things like weight as well.
Well, food is number one thing, right? Basically, so the kind of food you eat. So I still want to go back there because we all have to eat 3 meals a day, right? So I want to talk about what are the kinds of foods that people should just avoid, okay? And I'm not being political or whatever. You talk about health, right? So and so we're going to talk about that and then how their sleep habits as well, because you're trying to prevent bad health.
Yes.
Right? And not just basically, okay, they say prevention is better than cure. Okay, you want to prevent people from going to see doctors when their health is bad. You're going to say, no need. If you really live in a healthy lifestyle, then you may not need to see a doctor. You're going to say an apple a day, it keeps the doctor away and stuff like that. So I still want to go back to foods, okay? So fish. I love fish.
Pescatarians.
I eat fish and I eat prawns all the time. It's very nice.
Rich in omegas.
Okay. Oh, that's good?
Yeah.
Okay. I see.
So what I'm trying to say is different foods for different people, we all have to eat what's going to be best for us.
Right. Yeah.
Like there has been proof that if you eat too much red meat, there's been proof of stomach cancers. So you just want to make sure you have a variety of food, right? So you're not just eating the same thing, and it's colorful. Like a rainbow, because then you're getting the phytonutrients, the antioxidants. When I talk to people, I say, listen, Ayurveda has this really great saying: the wrong food in the right atmosphere is okay. So what does that mean?
I know, I was going to ask you that.
It's my birthday, for example. Let's have some cake and ice cream and a toast to champagne. I'm 55, everybody. And that would be a great thing to do. But it's not something I'm going to do every day. So the festivities and the celebration is uplifting for a person. There's inspiration and joy and celebration, right? Happiness. Now, if I started eating cake every day and drinking champagne every day, it would create wear and tear on my body, right? So we have to, whenever we address food, we have to address craving. And that's where the real dilemma is.
By the way, you're listening to All About the Bay, or you're watching All About the Bay, brought to you by the Money Market, the Amazon for mortgage solutions. Do you know a friend, a relative, or a colleague who's looking to buy, sell, or refinance? Take them to themoneymarketinc.com. With me on the show today, if you haven't already started learning something, is of course Karen Barbarick. She is a health coach, spiritual coach, and so we'll be talking about how to prevent you from getting sick. You know what I mean? Health is number one. If you have all the money in the world, but you don't have your health, you got nothing. Or you have all the money in the world and your life is, you're in a wheelchair, or you are just, you can't enjoy it. What's the essence of money? So she's just finished talking to us about eating healthy. But I want to talk about, not just eating healthy, let's talk about sleep. Sleep is that's a physical aspect. Okay, we'll talk about the body, right? We're going to talk about the soul, and then we'll talk about the spirit at the end. So I talk about sleep then.
So,
because people are stressed in the Bay Area, working so hard, and
right.
that kind of stuff.
I have an online course. It's called Wake Up Well, and and you can get to my website, howtowakeupwell.com. But so many people were coming to me as a coach or in my Ayurvedic medicine practice because they're not sleeping well. Mm-hmm. And there's reasons for that. So my online course teaches people how to wake up well. But one of the main reasons why people are not sleeping well is because they're eating too late. Mm. Mm. Okay, so one of the things is, people work really hard.
I eat too late.
Yeah.
I eat like 11, last night I ate 11 o'clock.
Oh,
I work very hard. But it's bad, right? It's bad. Okay.
Well, what happens is, at midnight, the body's liver kicks in. The digestive, what happened in the day, what you ate in the day, what you've mentally absorbed in the day gets digested after midnight. Mm-hmm. You know the Cinderella story where you turn into a pumpkin after midnight, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of what happens.
Your body knows when it's midnight?
Yes, but it's tied to this thing called the circadian rhythm. Mm. So we think that the sun is the timekeeper. It's light and then it's dark, mm-hmm. right? But really the moon mm-hmm. is the timekeeper.
But sometimes you don't have the moon.
That's right. Sometimes mm-hmm. the moon is void, of course. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the moon is full. And sometimes the moon is rising to fullness, and sometimes it's falling from fullness. Mm-hmm. And so our body is like 75% water, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And if on a full moon the tides rise, mm-hmm. correct? Mm-hmm. Well, so does the water in our body rise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's having an effect on us. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, to get back to digestion, when we eat at 11 o'clock, mm-hmm. And then you go to sleep, mm-hmm. Your body is overworking mm-hmm. to digest. Mm-hmm. And so it has a spike in blood sugar. Mm-hmm. Okay? And then after you've been asleep for 2 hours, or 3 hours. Mm-hmm. This is the famous thing. Why do I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning mm-hmm. and I can't go back to sleep? Mm-hmm. Well, because your blood sugars just had a rise and a fall, and it thinks it's time to get up and to eat again.
But is that true for everybody?
Everybody, yeah, is tied to their circadian rhythm. So you eat when the sun is high, mm-hmm. because the body digests properly then, and then you fast. You've heard of intermittent fasting, mm-hmm, I'm mm-hmm. sure. It's very popular now, and it's a wonderful therapy for so many things, okay? So you don't eat past a certain time, and you allow your body to do what it's supposed to do in the middle of the night.
Okay, let me ask you then, what time should people eat ideally then?
Yeah, so you really should not be eating past 7 o'clock.
Oh, really?
I know, and we've created a whole...
When you go to bed? When you go to bed then? You go to bed at night?
Okay, and then the other thing is, so the whole wake up well theory, it's your day starts the night before. Mm-hmm. Okay, so wrap your mind around that. Mm-hmm. How I am behaving the night before, what I'm eating, what I'm thinking, what I'm watching on TV, how I'm working, how I'm dealing with kids or, my environment, is going to affect me the next day. So the theory is you stop eating by 7, and then you have a bedtime. So you make sure that you're already asleep when the liver kicks in. And I promote a bedtime. You haven't even had your dinner at this time, of 10 or 11 o'clock.
What is your bedtime then?
Yeah, 10 or 11 o'clock. So this isn't an ideal world.
So you're going to be for 4 hours without food? No snacks, nothing?
Yeah, so 12 hours basically. So if you stop eating at 7, you don't eat until the next morning at 7.
Okay, what I'm saying, okay, if I ate at 7, which is almost something I've never done, okay, and then you're telling me to go to bed at 11.
Yeah.
What am I going to do for 4 hours?
See, a lot of time people eat because it makes them tired.
Yes.
Okay, so that's called a habit. So what we do is we change habits. So I'm considered a habit buster. So I help you break habits. And there's evening activities. So you could take a bath. You could play music.
I'll play music.
Yeah, spend time with family. Read a book.
Write one.
Go. I was going to say go tango dancing, but that's going to keep you up too late because tango doesn't start until 8. But you can have movement or yoga or tai chi or some qigong or whatever's, some dance. So you figure out practices. If you take something out, such as food, you're going to have to put something in there. Right? Meditation is a wonderful thing. You develop a connection between you and the nighttime. So where do people fall off the wagon the most? When do people fall off the wagon? At night. So that's called shadow work. People are great in the day. They wake up, they have their green drink, they eat their oatmeal, they go jogging, right? People like this. They're doing their good thing. And then as soon as the sun goes down, it's like craving comes in. I'm hungry. I'm on my cell phone, scrolling. The ancients, what did the ancients do? They gathered by the fire and they told stories. They had real connection, right? In the wintertime, the women would gather, they would knit, they would crochet. So they had these practices that didn't fill the mind up with stuff so that then when you go to sleep, you're buzzing. Basically, you're buzzing. And then what happens, let's say, for example, you don't go to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning. You wake up with a feeling of jet lag. Let's say you got to be at work at 9. How do you brush that off of you, right? You feel like jet lag. So you don't wake up feeling well. And then if you don't wake up feeling well, can you perform your tasks? Can you feel your vitality? Can you perform your very most important thing in life, which is your purpose? Can you even know what it is? There's not enough energy there.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So it's important to eat right, and sleep right, think right, and stuff like that. That's very interesting. So, wow, this is...
well, we didn't talk about thinking.
No, we're going to get there. We're going to get there because thinking has to do with the soul, right? I think. Right? So we're going to go to that. So we dealt with the body. Now let's talk about the soul. But before I go to the soul, because the soul and the spirit are interconnected. Connected, okay? So I want to talk about what brought you to this level? I mean, to this stage, or I mean, you talk about these deep things and stuff. You're not a doctor. You're not a doctor, right?
No.
So how did you get to this stage?
Yeah.
I mean, what brought you this? I mean, something happened in your life. What happened?
Oh boy. Okay, so growing up, I had a very tumultuous family where there was a lot of suffering. With mental health challenges. There was alcohol, there was drug addiction, there was just a lot of nervousness, anxiety, fear. My parents came out of the Depression, so money was the most important thing to provide for your family, but the mental health really wasn't there. And then I have a older sister who has bipolar manic schizophrenia. Okay, so I grew up with this, but we never talked about it. My parents tried to normalize her rather than really helping her with diet, and so she got heavily addicted to drugs and alcohol and bad marriages, and it was a really uncomfortable growing up. So what I did, because my mentality was different, you know, it really was different, and my connection to spirit was different, I moved out at 15. I got a scholarship to Cal State University of Northridge. I got my degree in communications. I moved from Southern California to Northern California, and I met my husband. And what my avenue out of the pain was to get involved in extreme sports. So I owned an off-road vehicle store, and I raced motorcycles. And in fact, I have 3 national championships, world champion in racing watercrafts, you know, the sit-down jet skis. And I was the only woman back in that day. There was no women doing that. In 1998, 99, and 2000 was my big years. So I became an adrenaline junkie. And that was how I healed myself.
You're trying to escape from something.
Exactly. So whatever I did too much of. Like I was driving a motorcycle and you know, just went a little bit too fast on it and crashed a motorcycle, which I walked away from. As far as
you're not trying to kill yourself.
No. As far as skiing goes, you know, there was never a mountain tall enough for me to do, and never a chute.
Really? Skiing, right?
So yeah, downhill skiing, downhill mountain biking. I fractured my neck twice by falling and face planting. You know, so I've cracked my body up. I broke this arm. I've had many things. But what happened for me is when I had my sons, and you might be able to relate to this because I think you're a father, right? You have sons? Yeah, I met your son.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one son. He's 14 years old.
Okay, so when my oldest son hit a certain age, I think it was between 5 and 7, I had a hard time parenting. I started crying a lot. I started feeling like I wasn't a good enough mother. I wasn't qualified to be a mother. And what was happening is I was relating to the 7-year-old inside of me that never healed. And I went into a depression, basically. And rather than going the route of Western medicine, which wanted to give me antidepressants, tranquilizers, you know, this, that, and the other thing, I got involved in Ayurveda and yoga, and I felt my spiritual connection. I got my life back. I got my health back, and it was in that time of my life that I had what doctors called was an epileptic seizure, but what I call is a near-death experience. And that turned my life from being extreme to being very zen.
Okay, so near-death experience. I read some books about that where all of a sudden you leave your body or something and you land in this place, and it's like a lot of light and purity, and it's paradise, it's bliss.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I had been doing meditation practices. In yoga, we call it a technology. There's different technologies to obtain higher consciousness, higher states of awareness. I mean, think about it. We're using our senses through little pinholes. There's so much more that's available to us that we don't see because we're dense, basically. So I started cleansing my body.
So dense from being stupid or what?
No, dense being like full of junk food, being too sedentary, having a bunch of negative thoughts. All of our energy is moving out there in the world without much focus on our heart and our mind and how they're talking to each other. And so I was doing all of these high technology, these yogic breathing exercises and all kinds of stuff. And so every day at a certain time of day, now granted my kids were very young, you know, probably around 9, I would meditate. You know, I would sit down, I'd do my meditation. Well, on this one day, I feel it was God. Okay, I'm a real God person, but if you want to call it the universe or whatever, call it whatever, came to me and said, you're going to have to lay down for this one. So when God talks to you, you listen, right? So I laid down in the middle of my living room floor, and that fast I was in the light. They call it the white light. And all I can say is it was the most magnificent place. It was filled with love. And it wasn't the type of love that you experience human to human, like with a lover or even with your children. It was an unconditional love. It was like universal connectedness. It was the love that holds everything together. Okay? And I just, I was just in that light, and then suddenly God, which I never saw God, God was the light, I guess, said, stop studying, start teaching. And then I felt this nudge, and I said, I don't want to go back. Like, I wanted to stay wherever I was. And I felt this nudge, and I woke up, and I was in a rainbow light. And I didn't know what had happened to me. Then I didn't know how long I was there. I heard my kids were still playing downstairs. And all I knew to do was to gather my kids up, and their friends were over, and to go to water. To put my body in the water so that I could feel it again, because I went to a different place. And the water really helped me get my earthly humanness back. And then my whole life changed, because what I learned at that point is God doesn't judge anybody. We all go to the same place. And when we distill, as I like to say it, there's still a tiny, tiny little particle of us left. And that's like an atom in the space. And so after that happened, I didn't even look for work. I worked, I got hired in the juvenile hall. I worked in the juvenile hall for about 5 years, teaching young people, how to love themselves, how to do self-care, how to accept themselves. And I worked in the public school system for 10 years, teaching teachers, the same practices, and then they shared it with their students. I've worked in just about every congregation. I've traveled in many different countries, and I've taught to many different people. And so I've worked with thousands of people to have them feel connected, and to expand the relationship with source energy, which is basically space. What lies between you and me, Paul?
Space. And
what's in the space? Pure potential. It's fertile ground. It's when you're in that space of nothingness, when you're empty, that you can create.
That's amazing. Okay, so you found your purpose when you encountered this God thing that you talk about here. And so what was the purpose? Yeah, I know you talked about it.
Right?
Stop learning, go teach. So you found your purpose.
So it's taken me about 20 years to actually figure that out. So my purpose is to really teach people universal connectedness. It's very simple. We are all connected, right? Now, there's the saying, we are all one. In a sense, we are all one humanity. Okay, now we come in all different shapes and sizes and colors and languages and cultures and this, that, and the other thing. So we're individuated, and I'm a unique individual, like unique to myself, nobody else. But I'm also connected to everybody. So when I'm breathing in this oxygen, this space, I'm breathing in what you're breathing out, right? And then I breathe in, breathe out. That's how COVID spread, right? That's how things, but it's also how thoughts spread. So have you ever experienced, like, you're in a place where you're in like a high vibe place where the energy is just really good and you're inspired and you're lifted, right? That's because you're connected to that with the environment that you're in. But if you like get into a place where where there's, you know, just some not good things, or some places in San Francisco, it just breaks my heart because I can feel myself sink in that. So
that's the soul part.
Yeah.
That's the soul part. Okay, so soul is a thinking, is it? Is it thinking? What is it?
Yeah. So what is the soul?
Yes.
Okay. So we're mental beings. Now you said something about thinking, right? You said that. Now Descartes said, "I think, therefore I am." Okay. So that's how we've identified ourselves with our thoughts. Correct. Now we all pretty much think the same way, and we don't think very original thoughts. Inventions come from having an original thought, correct? But most of the time we're just kind of recycling thoughts and everybody's thinking the same thing. So we have to take it a step further, which is spirit or soul. Okay, and that is the part of us that, well, in Sanskrit we call it like prana, which is our life force. Okay, we carry it from lifetime to lifetime, so you don't have to believe in reincarnation, but wherever when this flesh dies, we are distilled and something goes somewhere, right? So that's the part of you that we take with us. And if we can develop more of a relationship with our soul and our soul's purpose, then we can have a fulfilled life. It's very unfortunate because so many people are out there hustling and bustling and, you know, trying to make a living or trying to look good or, you know, compete or whatever it is that they're doing, that they're not connected to their soul. And that's a really unfortunate thing. And how do you do that? You have to spend quiet time with yourself. And reflect. You know, some people call it contemplative prayer, you know, where you recycle a prayer over and over and you really get it in. Some people just say, you know, following your breath. However that is, it's vitally important to your health. Probably even more in some ways than the food that you're eating.
So we've been talking about how to stay healthy, how to stay away from drugs. You see that. People are dying and they're even suing all these drug manufacturers and stuff. America is suffering from this epidemic, right, of drug addiction, not just things like marijuana and cocaine and stuff, but you have the drugs that are manufactured in companies that are legal and stuff like that. So, and today you heard my good friend here, was my friend for the first time, talking about how to live a holistic lifestyle, right? So basically, so that you are healthy and not unhealthy, so that you stay, I mean, your life has a meaning. That's what it is. Your life has a meaning. So how do they reach out to you?
I just wanted, this is such an important thing. So you said your life has a meaning. So many people don't know where to start. Okay, and one of the other modalities that I do to help people is I look at people's astrological star chart. Okay, so just like we have our own fingerprint at the time of your birth. Okay, so you're being delivered out of the womb, and whoever's holding you holds you up to the sky, and there's nobody filling that space. At that time of your birth, you're the only one, aside from the hands of whoever's holding you. Whatever you're looking at in the sky is your star chart. So one of the things
most people are born in the hospital. There's no sky there.
Well, okay, think of it metaphorically. You know, what you're doing is you're occupying a space. Okay, and that nobody is occupied at that time in that space. Ever. And that's like your fingerprint. Okay, that's your map. That's the blueprint. Okay, and so what happens is, so there's all these, you know, you look at your chart, so it's a circle, and then it's cut up into 12 pies, which is all the constellations, right? And then we have all the planets that fit in there, and you have your rising sign, your moon sign, all this. But what happens is, when people don't know themselves from that perspective, they can live a life where they're spending too much time in one sector of their life, too much worry in one area of their life, too much emphasis goes on this one area. A lot of times it's your moon sign or where there's some major planets. But when I look at a chart, I say, wow, you have all this potential that you're not even tapping into. And when you tap into that, your purpose is going to rise. It might take a little work, right? Because you got to change some old habits. And I use neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy, hypnosis sometimes to help people. But once you open up to that part of yourself that you never even knew you had, until an astrologer can look at it and say, let's put some energy there, then you're still stuck in these patterns and these habits and these just sort of habitual ways of being, and you don't know that this other world is open to you.
Okay, how do people reach you?
Okay, so you can reach me at my website. I mentioned it before, howtowakeupwell.com, and I have another website. It's www.bendingbladehealingarts.com. Okay, my name is Karen Barbarick. I'm also on Teachable. You can find me, Karen Barbarick, on Facebook, on Instagram, and I just love people, and I would love to meet you. And let's rock, yeah.
Thank you so much.